Hello, everybody. I appreciate you taking the time today. We're going to start now. I'll start slowly to give a few people a chance to log in at the last minute here, but this will take about a half an hour. We are going to talk about the process of analyzing your club using the Compare Clubs function in the reports. Each of them have different uses, and we'll be very careful to talk about those and the ways that you can combine them to really get an excellent look at your club and understand how you in your club compares to other clubs in the industry, both industry-wide and on a smaller scale and smaller samples. So with that, I want to mention that I have everybody muted at this point. That cuts down on background noise. If you would like to ask a question, there's a control panel for GoToMeeting. It should be at the top right corner of your screen. And there's a little orange rectangle with an arrow. If you click on that, it will open up the control panel. And about down near the bottom, you can type in a question if you have it. And I certainly will leave time at the end of our meeting today for folks to ask questions, and away we go. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to look at the process of analyzing your club using comparisons and reports. When you log into the website, as you may know, you will see the three areas of the survey that we offer. We're going to spend our time today in finance and operations and compensation and benefits. First, I am going to go to the compensation and benefits section. In each of the three sections, My Club is the data input function. Compare Clubs allows you to compare clubs, in this case, particular roles on a line-by-line basis against other clubs, and you can set filters to compare against different groups of clubs in the industry. And then My Reports has two sections, but the section we're really going to focus on is the custom reports that we have written that produce PowerPoint files with analytic charts in them so that you have graphical representation of the data that we're looking at. So just a couple of comments about the process of analysis. When you start to look at your club, I often suggest, or we suggest, that you go to the reports section and look at your club against a sample set of clubs that are approximately the revenue range of your club. And whether in the type of club. This really gives an overview of your club in the context of the industry. And then after you've looked at the overview, by all means, you can set different filters and look at different slices of the industry. But especially in compensation and benefits and also in finance and operations, it's very effective to begin by looking at clubs in a revenue range. So when we want to, we're in the My Reports section. There are a set of filters that you can set for comparison purposes. In order to set the filters, you click Change. We are going to set filter, the sample set for this club is going to be in the $12 to $20 million range with golf. So I set the various filters and then be sure to click Apply. I picked the $12 to $20 million range to put this club at about the median revenue range. And so one important factor in analyzing executive compensation at clubs is really the size of club, which is to say revenue. Big clubs, tens of millions of dollars, pay differently than clubs that are $3 or $4 million. And that is exactly why I set the filters around that range. In order to run a report, we click on the link at the bottom of the page for the report that we'd like to look at. It takes a couple of 3 minutes and produces a PowerPoint file with graphical charts. You can open the file and go through slide by slide and look at the measures for the various roles, in the executive roles at your club in relation to those positions at other clubs. So we see that I set the revenue range to put this club at the median of the sample, and we use percentiles. So half of the club's revenue falls between 12.8 million and 15.6. And then obviously the quartiles are 0 to 12.7, 12.7 to 13.8, 15.6. We cut off the bottom 5% and top 5% in the reports to maintain confidentiality of your data. That's critically important to us. We don't want people to be able to identify your club by narrowing down the sample set to a small handful. As we go through the charts, we can look at how your club compares to other clubs in the various measures. And obviously this club has a very large food and beverage operation relative to other clubs at the median. The dues are approximately the same as other clubs at the median. And we go through a whole series of different measurements that relate to compensation for executives. Come to the head of the club. In this case, the head of the club combined total compensation is in the total is in the 34th percentile. So 3/4 of the clubs, the executive at the club makes more than at this club. At the median, it's 328. So the point here is that you can see your data points charted specifically on the entire line of data points for the sample that we're looking at. With going into further detail in that particular report, we can shift from the report to the compare clubs function, and now we can look at that. We can look at the head of the club on a line-by-line basis for each of the questions that we ask. So when we enter data for the head of the club, these are the questions that we ask, and they're consistent for all of the roles, for the executive roles. And we can shift from the data input to compare clubs by clicking on compare clubs here or using the pull down. When we shift to compare clubs, it shows the revenue range, the filter settings that we have. It shows the total number of clubs we're looking at. It also shows the average response per metric. There's a slight variation because not all questions apply in this case. So if something doesn't apply, we ask you to leave it blank. But we're looking at approximately 60 clubs in comparison. So for each question that's asked, we can look at a chart, quick chart. There's an icon right there that pops a quick chart, and it shows exactly your data, the data for your club, plotted against the other clubs for each measure. And you can click through these charts one at a time, and you can save them one at a time. You just can't save all 34 at once. So if you've looked at the report and you've identified an area that you want to focus more narrowly on, you shift from the report to the compare clubs, and you can look at the particular line item that you may have a question about. And further, you can click on the quick chart and see all the data points charted. So that's a quick overview of the functionality in compensation benefits. I'd like to shift to finance and operations. And again, my club is the data input. Compare clubs allows you to compare on a line-by-line basis for each of the measures that you put into each of the departments. And then my reports, again, we offer pre-written reports that produce PowerPoint files. These reports include quite a bit of analysis and ratios so it's different from the compare clubs. The compare clubs shows for each specific data point only and not ratios. It shows where your club value is plotted against the sample that you're looking at. So again, in the compare club section, what we're looking at are strictly the values for your club in comparison to the sample that we're looking at. In the reports themselves, we actually have several charts in each of the reports that do ratios and analysis based on a combination of the operating data points and the financial data points. So for example, if we looked at the golf operations report for this club, we click on the report. Again, I have the filter set at 12 to 20 million with golf. We can open the golf operations report and again go through slide by slide and look at soldiers around the golf operation, including rounds played. So you can see at this club it's quite a bit less active on the golf course than other clubs of a similar size. Rounds 18 per 18-hole course. So here is a case where we use ratios. So some of the clubs that are included in this sample set have more than 18 holes. So on a 18-hole comparative, we look at the rounds played against other clubs on a 18-hole proportional comparison. So whereas the total at the median is 33,000 rounds played, if we consider it on a 18-hole equivalent, it's 22,000 rounds. So this is one example of the way that we use the data both from the operational information that's input, and I've shifted to my clubs, and we're looking at the golf operation. The golf operation is a combination, as are the other departments, of financial information and operational data. So we ask about number of rounds and such things as who owns the golf shop and specific tee times and these kind of things. And what that allows us to do in the reports is develop those ratios for deeper analysis. If when you're looking at a report you have a particular question, a line item, so we may want to shift from the rounds played and look at how that compares against other clubs in the industry, we can shift to the compare clubs function, go to the golf operations and look at the operational, and then again on a line-by-line basis we can look at each individual data point. So whereas the total rounds are quite low, the rounds played prior year are also low. The club is open 8 months a year versus many of these clubs are open 12 months a year. We have the same, actually a larger number of carts than at the median for a smaller number of rounds. So what the compare clubs allows you to do specifically is really look at the details in the tactical decisions that are made at the club, so that you can start to evaluate possibilities and opportunities for adjustment. It may be that given the number of rounds that this club has, 88 carts might be too large of a fleet of carts, and it may be something for this club to consider in the next cycle when they buy the new carts. So what I would say is that the reports very often give an overview and some strategic information using ratios and comparisons in that way. And the compare clubs allows you to shift from the overview directly to the specific and particular data points and make comparisons. So I did a walkthrough earlier in the day, and we talked. The club does quite a bit of food and beverage, and one of the questions was, among these clubs, how many are tax-exempt member-owned? So we can look at the sample that we're looking at now. We can go to the club summary information, and this is exactly what I did with them. I went to the compare clubs in this case and looked at that particular data point, which is your club taxable or non-taxable, and found in that set, as in this set, about 85% were tax exempt. So what the compare clubs allows you to do is really bore down and understand more completely what the sample set that you're looking at is comprised of when you're doing the comparisons. I'd like to open it up to questions at this point, so I'm going to unmute everybody, and if you have a question, please feel free to ask. So there being none, I'd like to summarize the overview. When you are looking at the data in club benchmarking, in each of the three areas, it's broken down into input, compare clubs, and reports. I would say that the reports, although there is some tactical information in them, certainly gives you an opportunity to look at analysis and ratios and understand the data in a different way than looking at the straight comparisons in compare club. Compare clubs allows you to go to specific data points and understand where your club stands relative to other clubs in the sample that you're looking at. I would say that, and I encourage you when you are analyzing the data, to look at the club from a number of different perspectives and vary the filters. I think it's instructive to look at to always look at the club in the context of the entire industry. And I am using the favorite function here, and I can set the filters for all golf clubs. So for example, if we look at the club, this club, in the context of all golf clubs, we have 543 clubs with golf that have data in the 2013 database. And we can really start to get a sense of this club, again, relative to the entire industry. So it's no surprise that this club is a very large club, and their capital income is quite high. Their available cash is high relative to others. It's instructive to look at the ratios and averages, so we can see that this club gets their dues about the same way that other clubs, the available cash from dues. So Tony asked, is the data in the database calendar year? And it is actually fiscal year data. And the way that we do the year slices is for clubs whose year end is July 1st of July 1st of 2013, so clubs whose year end is after July 1st, 2013, but before July 1st, 2014 are considered in the 2013 database. So that's to say all the clubs that were September 30th, 2013 are in the 2013 database, Likewise, all the clubs that are March 31st, 2014 are in the 2013 database. So when you send us your trial balance for the year end, we look at the cutoff and put it into the data slice that it fits. So right up until June 30, 2014, those data sets have been put in the 2013 database. And by the way, you can change the year that you're looking at by using the year pull down. We've opened the 2014 database, and in fact, one of the clubs has sent along their 2014 numbers because they were August 31st year end. So that database will build as clubs come to the year end, and will actually be quite full after the January-February timeframe. My pleasure, Tony. Thank you for asking. I explained that poorly 2 meetings ago, and I appreciate the opportunity to revisit it. So I think that, again, the process of using the reports and comparisons in analyzing your club, I often start and recommend starting with the reports. It really gives you quite a bit of information about your club with various ratios and proportions. And based on what you see in the reports, the compare clubs function allows you to really investigate on a tactical level, line by line basis, exactly how your club varies from other clubs in the sample that you're looking at, and in fact, if you care to, against the entire industry. I certainly appreciate your time today. If anybody, I'm going to unmute again, and if anybody has any questions, they're certainly welcome to ask. Otherwise, I will let you get back to work.
Yeah, I'll give you a copy over to Brian so he knows. Oh, yeah.
Yep.
Sure, let's go. Can you hear me?
Hello?
Can you hear me? She's going to get some things for her. I don't know how to do it.
So how do we level the playing field when it comes to service charge, and what portion is credited to food and beverage versus dues? So service charge is considered to be a food and beverage revenue. And in fact, for those clubs that charge a gratuity and don't show it in the balance in the P&L, we actually add it to revenue, and we add it to labor to balance the playing field. So one of our tasks and one of our responsibilities is to be very careful to present the data on the same basis, and that's one way that we do that. So does that help, Patricia? So parameters that you can use other than all clubs are actually quite a variety. Each data point in the database could be a filter. We set up the most common filters, but for example, it may be that we saw that this club has a very large food and beverage revenue relative to their total revenue. So it may be when the person, when somebody at this club is doing the analysis, they would want to set their revenue range around food and beverage revenue that puts it about the median and narrows that sample. So by changing the food and beverage revenue to this 4 3/4 to 6 1/4, we can see that actually it puts it about the in the higher range. So we could again adjust the revenue to get it closer to the median, and then start to look at some of the measures in food and beverage around clubs that have the same scale of food and beverage operation. When you set the filters, you by all means look at the club from a number of different perspectives. Many people like to look at it from a geographic point of view, and by all means do that. A caution is that the more filters that you set, the higher probability that you will have of filtering out clubs that you may want to compare against, because in the database, when a data point does not apply, we ask you to leave it blank. So if a club leaves their number of golf holes blank, for example, because they haven't filled it in yet, if you set number of golf holes, then you will filter out a club that you may want to compare against. So again, the more filters that you set at once, the narrower the group of clubs that you will be looking at. But by all means, we recommend, and it's very beneficial to vary the filters in a number of different ways and look at the club from a number of different perspectives. So Patricia asked, you're welcome, Nancy. Patricia asked if it's more than 20% of food sales, namely the service charge, do we take it to dues? No, we leave it in food and beverage. If it's designated as a food and beverage service charge, it stays in food and beverage. Any other questions? Well, I have to say I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your day today. I hope that if you have any questions after we've been together, you should feel free to call or email. The support link at the top of the page gives the contact information. The email link will go to support, and one of us will certainly get back to you. But you're also welcome to call me directly. It's very important to us that when you're using club benchmarking, that you are using it in the decision-making process and for setting strategy. And if you have a question about the mechanics or an effective use of the tool, we strongly encourage you to get in touch with us so that we can go over it and discuss it and make sure that the tool is as effective as possible for your use. I appreciate your time today. I look forward to speaking with each of you. I know I've already with many of you, and I hope you have a great rest of the afternoon and a great rest of the year. I look forward to speaking with you next month. Thank you very much.